number 10 spot, we have the mysterious beam. Pretty recently, scientists explained that they captured a mysterious beam of energy that was coming from the star that is the closest known star to the sun, Proxima Centauri. This star is small and low mass and is located around 4.2 light years away from us. The thing about this star is that it has one rocky exoplanet that is 17% larger than Earth in its habitable zone, which would make liquid water a possibility on the planet. This planet's habitability has been disputed throughout the years, but this signal could be a sign that it may be even more habitable than any of us know. Scientists explained that the signal shifted while it was being observed, which mimicked the shift caused by a movement of a planet. They're taking extra precautions to figure out what exactly caused this shift in case it was some sort of mundane source. It will, of course, take some time to figure out, but it's all very exciting. In our number 9 spot today, we have the Venus Cloud. Last year in September of 2020, astrobiologists everywhere were excited and skeptical of some new potential evidence that had been found in the upper clouds of Venus. Firstly, can we just take a second to really think about how cool of a job an astrobiologist has? Anyway, the new findings were pointing to the potential of the presence of phosphine in the clouds. Phosphine is a rare and usually poisonous gas that on Earth is basically always met with the presence of living organisms. Venus hasn't really been top of the list of choices for finding potential life due to its surface temperature and pressure and the sulfuric acid clouds, but this evidence could prove to say something otherwise. 2 separate telescopes were able to pick up the signatures of phosphine in a cloud that had a similar temperature and pressure to Earth, and while this isn't concrete evidence of space bugs, it will at least be a reminder that we should be continuing to look for life even in the most unlikely places. And hey, maybe it is space bugs. In our number 8 spot today, we have Oumuamua. Okay, so this is one piece of evidence that actually has scientists fighting over what is going on with it. So a few years ago, scientists all agreed that we had found an object that was flying through our solar system, and they called it Oumuamua, and it was widely agreed that it was an interstellar comet that had swung out from around another star. But upon closer examination, they realized that something was propelling it and causing it to accelerate, and this is when the debate started, because they just don't know why. Avi Loeb, who's a Harvard University astrophysicist, proposed the idea that rather than a comet, this could be an alien probe that is being pushed by a light sail, which is a very wide but extremely thin piece of material that accelerates by being pushed by solar radiation. Other scientists didn't agree with this and instead said that it's possible that hydrogen ice could have melted off of the object in a way that would mimic a rocket engine or something of that nature, but in August of last year, Avi wrote in a study that hydrogen ice is too easily heated and it would have melted off long before it reached our solar system. I guess we just have to wait it out while the scientists debate and gather more evidence to really know what's going on behind this one. In our number 7 spot today, we have the NASA Viking experiment. This is one of the more debated ones on today's list, but that does not mean it isn't evidence. In 1976, NASA's Viking landers tested the soil on Mars and found some chemicals that could be attributed to signs of life. The soil was mixed with radioactive carbon-labeled nutrients and then tested for the production of radioactive methane gas. The test ended up receiving a positive result, which could indicate that something in the soil is metabolizing the nutrients to produce the gas. Despite further efforts, there still hasn't been any life found, but one of the scientists who worked on this original project, and others as well, stand by what they found and argued that the technology at the time wasn't advanced enough to find the key evidence of life. Hopefully with the new Perseverance rover that landed recently, we'll be able to find the signs on Mars that we have been looking for. In our number 6 spot today, we have black holes. When we think of black holes, we usually think of how absolutely terrifying they are, but that may be changing. There has actually been the discovery of a planet that is floating around a black hole. The forces around the hole are also providing heat for the planet as well, but there is one catch, and that is the fact that the planet needs to orbit at the speed of light. This would mean that a second on that planet would be hours on ours, which is kind of difficult to comprehend. The planet would have to be in what is called the Goldilocks zone though, because if it's too far from the black hole, it'll be too cold and there won't be any liquid water, but if it's too close, it will of course be sucked into the black hole by the gravity gravitational forces. It's definitely a pretty crazy idea, but it is possible that there could be some life in this situation. In our number 5 spot today, we have fossilized microbes. Another piece of controversial evidence that came from Mars was announced in 1996. NASA scientists announced that they had potentially found what appeared may be fossilized microbes in a lump of Martian rock. It is likely that this rock came off during some sort of Mars collision and just casually floated around the solar system for 15 million years before landing in Antarctica in 1984. Just casual space stuff. After analyzing the rock, it was revealed that it contained organic molecules and small specks of mineral magnetite, which is sometimes found in the bacteria on Earth. And upon further analysis with an electron microscope, it was claimed that there were signs of nanobacteria. Since then, some claim that the magnetite wasn't that similar to those found in bacteria, and there is a belief that the signs of nanobacteria could have been grown in a lab. In our number 4 spot today, we have UFO footage. Remember last year when the Navy released footage of UFOs, but we were in a global pandemic, so we didn't really have time to freak out about it? Well, let's freak out about it now, because what the heck was captured on those videos? The US Navy released footage last year where they had captured video of some sort of wingless aircraft that was traveling at hypersonic speed. Of course, people are wary to believe that this is true signs of alien life and alien visitors, but the thing is, we simply just don't really know what this is. We know it's not something that is known to us yet, so this could definitely be a sign of some sort of alien life, and I guess we'll just have to wait and see. In our number 3 spot today, we have this bacterial experiment. So we've talked a bit on today's list about how we tend to think of life only being able to exist on other planets that are similar to ours with a similar atmosphere within a certain distance of a star, but we've also discussed how this more narrow thinking might not be the best scenario. On Earth, most living creatures require oxygen to live, but the problem with a lot of planets is that there's far more hydrogen and helium. Last year, scientists decided to take 2 different bacteria. One was E. coli, which can be found in the guts of humans, and ordinary yeast, which is used in things like bread and beer. With these 2 bacteria, they tried to see if they could live in different environments. When placed within flasks that contained either pure hydrogen or pure helium, they still managed to grow, just at a slower pace. This evidence goes to show that there might be living organisms that we haven't found yet because we are just looking in the wrong places. In our number 2 spot today, we have the fact that they might have died off. This one is a bit disappointing, to be honest, but it basically is just a theory that it's probably pretty likely that there were aliens at some point, but since the universe is so old, they might have already died out. All life and cultures rise and fall, and researchers put together a model last year that would give more insight into the likelihood of this theory. They took things into account like sun-like stars that are not too close or too far from planets that are similar to Earth, as well as how frequently there are deadly radiation blasting supernovas, which of course would prove to be a huge problem for life forms, as well as the time that it takes for intelligent life to evolve, provided all the conditions are right. And once the evolution has taken place, how long would it take for a tool-bearing form of life to then destroy itself? That's a lot of factors to consider, and through all of this, it was found that the highest likelihood of life before ours in the Milky Way emerged around 5.5 billion years ago, which would place that before our planet was even formed. This, of course, would have provided plenty of time for all of the events I just mentioned to have occurred. I hope this one isn't true, because I really do hope that there are aliens out there. In our number 1 spot today, we have Europa. One of Jupiter's moons, called Europa, has a red tinge to it, and in 2001, NASA scientists revealed that it's possible that alien microbes might be responsible for the red color. The surface of the moon is mostly ice, but it has been shown that it reflects infrared radiation in a bizarre way. This means that something is binding it together, but researchers haven't been able to come up with the correct combination of elements and compounds to make the data make sense. There are some bacteria on Earth that can thrive in extreme conditions and that also have a red and brown color, which could potentially be responsible for the color on this moon. The surface temperature might be too cold for them to survive, but the warmer interior might be where they are located. Some geological activity on the moon could then push them closer to the surface, where they are then flash frozen in place. Starting off this list, in our number 10 spot, we have the New Jersey UFO. This UFO sighting took place in 2001 just above the New Jersey Turnpike. On July 14th, 2001, just after midnight, for around 15 minutes, motorists driving down the highway stopped to stare at the sky to witness what no one could believe believe. There were strange orange and yellow lights in a V formation just above the Arthur Kill waterway. There were a ton of witnesses who were all extremely confused and shocked as to what they were seeing. Air traffic controllers initially denied that there were any flying objects that could have caused the mysterious lights, but a group called the New York Strange Phenomena investigators claimed that they received radar data that night that could corroborate all of the stories that the witnesses were telling. It may not have been aliens, but it certainly was some sort of unidentified flying object that no one had ever seen before, and there were people from all walks of life witnessing it together. In our number 9 spot today, we have habitable planets. Before I dive into this one, guys, please don't forget to hit the thumbs up button if you're enjoying the video so far, because it really helps us out. So, we once were on a journey to start off by figuring out which planets were actually habitable. And by that I mean which planets were rocky and which were orbiting a star within what is called the Goldilocks zone and had water, and that they weren't too hot or too cold so that water could be in liquid form. It just seems like the absolute basics needed in order to sustain life. Well, now, after more years of research, it is thought that actually about 1 in every 5 or 6 planets is actually a planet that could potentially sustain life. It is thought that there is roughly about 1 exoplanet for every star in our galaxy. That's a lot of planets, which means that's a lot of planets that could potentially have life. There certainly are planets that researchers believe are the most likely, but that doesn't mean that they are the only ones that should be looked into. Basically, what I'm saying is that there are, at the very least, millions of planets that could be hosting some form of life, whether it's an intelligent civilization or just single-cell organisms that have the potential to evolve over millions of years, just like us. Any kind of life would be a huge and exciting win for the science community, so it's just a reminder to us to keep searching because we never know what we're going to find. In our number 8 spot today, we have the Stephenville UFO. In January of 2008, in the small town of Stephenville, Texas, a bunch of residents all saw something in the sky that they couldn't believe. In the beginning, it appeared to be white lights in the sky that were first in a single arc, but then they quickly moved to form 2 parallel lines. It was estimated that the lights were spanning about 1 mile long and half a mile wide. But the craziest part is that it was flying at 3,000 miles per hour, which is similar to the speed of a fighter jet, but there was no sound reported at all. The government chalked this sighting up to the US Air Force flight operation, but many of the residents who saw this event on that day were absolutely not convinced and truly felt like they were lied to. Some even explained that what they saw was too technologically advanced for human civilization. I want you guys to let me know in the comments if you believe the story that the government told, or if you trust the instincts of the people in Stephenville who saw that incident that day. In our number 7 spot today, we have time. This one is basically just the theory that we may not have found aliens yet because we haven't spent enough time looking for them. Realistically, it's been about half a century since we really gained the technological advancements that have allowed us to really look for them. In terms of the universe, that is the smallest little blink of an eye. Things take time, and it's incredibly possible that we just haven't had enough of it yet. Every year, as more money gets put into things like that, it allows incredibly smart and brilliant people the opportunity to create things that unbelievably make space more and more accessible to us. The more accessible it is, the more we will be able to discover. So maybe this is just a lesson in patience for all of us. If aliens do exist, I'm sure we'll find them at some point. Hopefully sooner rather than later, because I personally would like to meet an alien, but since I'm not an astronaut, I might have to wait a little longer than I'd like to. In our number 6 spot today, we have this unexplained UFO. In 2017, after the existence of the Advanced Aviation Threat Identification Program became more well known, a video was released of an encounter between an FA-18 Super Hornet and some sort of unidentified flying object. There weren't a ton of details released about exactly what happened during this encounter, but using a Raytheon Advanced Targeting forward-looking infrared pod, they were able to capture an extremely fast-moving white oval that was around 45 feet long. The oval had no wings and didn't appear to have any kind of exhaust either. They were tracking the UFO at an altitude of 25,000 feet just above the Atlantic Ocean, and then they were shocked as the craft rotated on its axis and flew away. There was no explanation released with the footage because it truly is unbelievable and currently unexplainable. In our number 5 spot today, we have They May Already Be Here. Okay, this one is for my conspiracy theorists out there. This is just the theory that maybe we can't find aliens because they've already found us and are actually walking among us, and we just don't know. I'm not quite sure the logistics of this one because I am definitely a human, and no alien who's posing as a human has ever revealed themselves to me personally, but I can't speak for everyone. It's possible that if this is true, aliens might be waiting for the right time to let us know that they've been walking around with us, or there may already be some lucky people out there who already know. I know a lot of us would be quite frightened of aliens if we did find concrete proof of their existence, and it might be likely that they're afraid of us as well. And if they are more intelligent than us and were able to find us first, they might just be testing out the waters to see what humans really think of them before letting us in on their secrets. So if you meet a stranger who starts asking you a bunch of questions about aliens, you might want to think twice next time. In our number 4 spot today, we have the Chicago UFO. This UFO sighting comes from November 7th, 2006 and was at the O'Hare International Airport in Chicago. Flight 446 was getting ready to head to North Carolina when an employee from United Airlines that was on the tarmac noticed a dark gray metallic aircraft hovering over one of the gates. After this, 11 other employees and even a few people who didn't work there saw this gray saucer floating around 4:15 p.m. The people who saw it explained that it hovered above the gate for around 5 minutes before it just shot itself upwards and broke through the clouds, leaving a hole where you could see the blue sky. The strangest thing, however, is that this flying saucer did not show up on the radar, so the Federal Aviation Administration just called it a weather phenomena and would not investigate it, despite there being around 15 witnesses who all saw the same thing. This story, however, became the most read story on the Chicago Tribune's website and even went international because it certainly is very interesting. In our number 3 spot today, we have light shifts. In the later half of 2015, a Penn State astronomer named Jason Wright explained that there were pretty erratic and spontaneous shifts in the light that was coming from a newly discovered star. This star sits about 1,280 light years away from us on Earth, and these shifts were very similar to as if something was passing in front of our view of the star briefly before passing right through. Scientists weren't able to connect this to any exoplanets or anything like that, which we could understand, and this is what led Jason to quite an interesting theory. He stated that it is possible that the shifts are caused by massive objects passing in front of the star in a kind of orbit, like an array of massive satellites or a similar kind of structure, like the type of thing that would be produced by an intelligent and civilized life form. Again, like many things, it's just a theory, but a very compelling one at that. In our number 2 spot today, we have the USS Princeton UFO. This UFO sighting comes from 2004. On November 14th of that year, the USS Princeton noticed an unknown aircraft of some sort that was about 100 miles off of the coast of San Diego. For 2 weeks prior to this, the crew had been tracking a strange flying object, and this one would start out at around 80,000 feet before extremely quickly dropping to hover right above the Pacific Ocean. Black Aces Commander David Fravor and Lieutenant Commander Jim Slate of Strike Fighter Squadron 41 went over in 2 fighter jets in order to kind of scope out the situation, and when they arrived, they saw what at first appeared to be churning water while there was an oval shape just below the surface. After this, a white oval shaped object appeared above the water, but it had no markings on it. Like no windows, nothing that would indicate an engine, no wings, and the infrared monitors on the jets didn't pick up any sort of exhaust. The commander and lieutenant commander tried to intercept this strange aircraft, but it very quickly flew away and reappeared on the monitor 60 miles away. Like when I say quickly, I mean it was moving at 3 times the speed of sound and over twice the speed of fighter jets. So faster than any kind of technology we currently have. We still don't know exactly what this was, but I'm sure a lot of us are thinking the same thing. In our number 1 spot today, we have radio signals. Basically, we're getting radio signals from somewhere, but we just aren't quite sure what exactly is going on there. It started in 2007 when we began getting what are called fast radio bursts, and they are a totally mysterious phenomena to scientists. These bursts are only a few milliseconds long, but they emit more energy than the sun does in 24 hours, which is just a statement that my brain struggles to comprehend. All of this is already super cool and very interesting, but here's an even crazier thing about them. The main thing we know about these bursts is that they are coming from outside of the Milky Way. They're coming from outside of our own galaxy. Space is the coolest and most unbelievable thing. This obviously had led a lot of experts to believe that it could be coming from an advanced civilization that is quite far away, and they may be trying to contact us, but we just don't have the technology to interpret the signals. Maybe one day scientists will figure out a way to accept whatever message it is they're trying to send, or maybe one day we'll get a visit from them and they'll be mad at us for not answering their messages. Starting off this list in our number 10 spot, we have the WOW signal. In August of 1977, there was a radio telescope at Ohio State University that detected a strange signal. The radio picked up a pulse of radiation that was super unusual and that was coming from somewhere by the constellation of Sagittarius. The signal lasted for 37 seconds and it has been commonly referred to as the WOW signal because of the fact that the astronomers observing it were so shocked at the time that they wrote WOW on the printout from the telescope. This signal was so shocking because it was in a band of radio frequencies that are internationally banned on Earth. There are a multitude of natural sources for radiation in space that would cover a multitude of frequencies, so there are scientists who are skeptical that this could be proof of alien life, but skepticism doesn't mean it should be ruled out. The nearest star in the direction it was coming from is 220 million light years away, so it must have either come from a huge astronomical event or intelligent alien life with a very powerful transmitter who are trying to contact us. At the end of the day, this signal was detected in 1977 and we still don't know exactly where it's coming from or why it exists, so who's to say this isn't something super exciting and possibly related to potential alien life. In our number 9 spot today, we have methane on Mars. As we all know, we are constantly looking at Mars and searching for not only the potential for a new planet for us to live on, but also potential signs of alien life that may already exist there, or perhaps evidence of a past alien existence. In 2004, we might have found some evidence that would suggest this is a strong possibility, and that is the discovery of methane gas in the atmosphere of Mars. In that year, 3 separate groups all independently reported the finding of the methane gas, and considering almost all of the methane in Earth's atmosphere is produced by bacteria and other life, this was extremely promising for scientists. There are other possibilities for the methane, such as the thawing of frozen underground deposits, or it could be generated by volcanism, but whatever the cause, it would have to be recent since it will either be destroyed quickly on Mars or it will escape into the rest of space. To potentially strengthen this point, in 2005, scientists also announced that they may have found evidence of formaldehyde, which was produced by the oxidization of methane. If this is true, that will only strengthen the case for potential microbes to be found on the planet. The good news is that while all these potential signs came from almost 20 years ago, and there wasn't the technology to prove any of these claims, we now have the technology actually on the planet digging in the soil, and we are much closer to getting real answers about what is going on Mars than we ever have been before. I mean, we can see Mars in 4K, which is unreal. Before I dive into this one, guys, please don't forget to hit the thumbs up button if you're enjoying the video so far, because it really helps us out. And if the aliens ever go on YouTube, we want them to know that we like them. See what I did there? In our number 8 spot today, we have the ancient sightings. This evidence comes from long before any of us were alive, but that doesn't mean it isn't potentially important. There have of course been recent UFO sightings and sometimes even reported alien visits or abductions, but with pop culture and media, it's easy for us to write these off as hoaxes, or people who are trying to receive their 5 minutes of fame, or people who thought they saw something but were mistaken by another piece of human technology. But what about the people who claimed these kinds of sightings long before the internet or international news or even human-made flying objects existed? Even in our ancient history, there have been writings and paintings of the potentially extraterrestrial variety. As one example, the 15th century painting The Madonna with Saint Giovannino depicts the Virgin Mary, but also in the background features some sort of hovering disc-like object that looks a lot like a UFO. This isn't the only example, however, as we've also seen some sort of otherworldly beings in ancient cave paintings and Sanskrit scrolls, and there have even been some people who swear it is also written in the Book of Ezekiel. It certainly says something that potential alien sightings have existed since so far back in our human history, so it must either point to proof of alien existence or just human beings being obsessed with conspiracies right from the beginning of our existence. In our number 7 spot today, we have Titan. Many space agencies have turned their main focus on the search for extraterrestrial life, from advanced intelligent life forms to more primitive and smaller life forms, and that starts with the smallest organisms and microbes. To help with this study and process, NASA is preparing a $4.25 billion mission to Europa, which is one of Jupiter's moons that we have previously discussed, since scientists believe it holds a strong potential for alien microbes under its icy surface. This study is aiming to be launched in 2024, which is quickly approaching, but there is another mission also in the works that is focusing on another moon that we haven't spoken yet about, and that is the moon of Saturn called Titan. In 2027, they're aiming to launch the $1 billion Dragonfly mission to this moon in order to analyze the lakes of liquid methane that exist on Titan. A planetary scientist at Johns Hopkins University who studies alien atmosphere, named Sarah Horst, has said that they believe Titan has all the ingredients necessary for life, so it certainly is a very promising mission. We may have to wait until 2027, but who knows? Maybe we'll find signs even before with all the upcoming missions and technological advancements. In our number 6 spot today, we have the 2021 UFO. On February 21st of this year, a blogger was using a radio scanner to try and pick up feed from an aircraft when he received much more than he ever expected. He intercepted the transmission of the wrong aircraft, but at the right time. As an American Airlines flight was headed from Cincinnati to Phoenix, around 1:19 p.m., the pilot came on the radio to ask the question, "Do you have any targets up here? We just had something go right over the top of us." After this, he followed up with, "I hate to say this, but it looked like a long cylindrical object that almost looked like a cruise missile type of thing moving really fast right over top of us." Not only were the FAA air traffic controllers not able to see any object in the area on their radar scope, but they still have been unable to identify exactly what it could have been. This does happen way more often than any of us realize, and it is possible that the object could have been part of some covert military or navy operation, but it certainly raises some alarm bells that it was unable to be tracked in any sort of capacity. I wonder if this was one of those stories that will remain a mystery, or if one day we'll get some sort of answers as to what exactly happened here. In our number 5 spot today, we have the radiation-proof bacteria. This is a sign that we could be very close to finding out more about due to the Perseverance rover that is currently searching on Mars. In 2002, Russian astrobiologists hypothesized that a bacteria here on Earth may have actually evolved on Mars. This bacteria is the most tough bacteria on Earth. It can withstand even the most extreme conditions such as cold, dehydration, vacuum, and acid, but the craziest part is that it is virtually radiation proof. These little microbes can withstand several thousand times the amount of radiation a human can withstand, as well as more radiation than any other bacteria on Earth. You can even find this bacteria on the inside of a nuclear reactor. Scientists did an experiment to see how quickly this bacteria could build up a stronger radiation resistance by zapping the bacteria with enough radiation to kill 99.9% of it, then leaving the remaining 0.1% to repopulate before zapping it again and repeating the process. It was concluded that it would have taken E. coli thousands and thousands of rounds to build up the same resistance that this hardy bacteria did in only 44 rounds. With this experiment, and based on the dose of radiation they gave each bacteria, it would take millions and millions of years to get even close to the amount of radiation they gave the bacteria in one cycle. Since Earth just doesn't carry that amount of radiation, it has led some scientists to speculate that since Mars is virtually unprotected and receives extremely high amounts of radiation, these bacteria may have evolved on Mars and gained their resistance in just a few 100,000 years, and that they may have been flung off of Mars by an asteroid and then brought to Earth on meteorites. It certainly is just a hypothesis at this point, but really, how else can we explain this random superpowered bacteria that is unlike any else on our Earth? I know these bacteria aren't the signs of alien life we are expecting and hoping for, but any alien life is exciting no matter how small. In our number 4 spot today, we have Frederick Valentich. Frederick was an Australian pilot who disappeared under some unbelievably suspicious circumstances on a training flight on October 21st, 1978. During the flight, he radioed the Melbourne Air Traffic Control to let them know that he was being accompanied by an aircraft that was around 1,000 feet above him, and at the same time that his engine had begun to run roughly. Air Traffic Control responded to him by explaining that there was no known air traffic at that level, and Frederick explained he could see a large unknown aircraft with 4 bright landing lights. He explained the aircraft approached him from the east and at first thought it was another pilot playing around with him, which for the record, during a flight seems like a terrible time for someone to play a prank. He then went on to explain that the mysterious aircraft was orbiting him and had a green light on it. When Air Traffic Control tried to get further details and asked what kind of an aircraft it was, Frederick responded by saying, "It's not an aircraft." After this, his radio transmission was interrupted by a metallic scraping sound, and this is when all contact was lost. Sea and air search began, but to no avail. There have been speculations that don't involve alien abductions, such as a staged disappearance, the possibility of Frederick getting confused and flying upside down, and potentially even him taking his own life, but all of these theories have been debunked in some sort of way, and neither the aircraft or Frederick himself have ever been found. The reason why alien abduction has been the main theory in this case is due to the fact of the many reported UFO sightings on the same night in the same region as his disappearance. It of course leaves us with more questions than answers, but it's all very interesting and very mysterious. In our number 3 spot today, we have more mysterious signals. Okay, before I get into this point, can we just take a second to talk about how many mysterious radio signals we are getting from space? In every part of these videos, I've talked about some sort of unknown signal, and I'm about to talk about another one. In 2003, astronomers on the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence project used a massive telescope that is located in Puerto Rico to take a look at 200 sections of the sky to re-examine the areas where they had once detected unexplained radio signals. During this, they found that all the previously detected signals had disappeared except for one. This one signal not only didn't disappear, but it only got stronger. The signal is coming from between the constellations of Pisces and Aries, and the curious thing about this location is that it resides in a place where there are no known obvious planets or stars. The signal is at one of the frequencies that hydrogen absorbs and emits energy, and hydrogen is of course one of the most common elements. There are scientists who believe that this is the frequency alien life would be most likely to use if they were trying to contact us. There is a possibility that this signal could be coming from some sort of natural phenomena that we just haven't had a chance to previously observe, but at this point, all options are on the table. In our number 2 spot today, we have the James Webb Space Telescope. Okay, this one is a little different than the other signs we've been talking about because this is something that is happening in October of this year that could get us closer to detecting alien life than ever before. On October 31st, 2021, NASA, in partnership with the European Space Agency and the Canadian Space Agency, will be launching the James Webb Space Telescope that is a huge and very exciting advancement. This telescope will help us solve some of the mysteries of our own solar system and will give us a better look at the distant worlds that lay outside of it. There are so many gas dwarf planets that have the strong potential of holding alien life, but we just haven't had the technology to really see and investigate them because they don't live within our solar system. These super Earths or mini Neptunes need to be investigated to see what their atmospheres contain because it is very possible they are showing signs of life, even if it is only microbes. Once this telescope is in orbit, it will unfold a 5-layered sun shield that will reach the size of a tennis court, and then after this, a 6.5 meter primary mirror will be deployed, and this will give the telescope the power to detect faint light from stars and galaxies that lie far, far away. I know this isn't a sign of alien life yet, but the potential is absolutely amazing. Even if we don't detect alien life, we are still getting so much valuable information, and any step forward is a step closer to us finding alien life if it exists. In our number 1 spot today, we have the astronaut sightings. We can sit here on Earth all day and talk about the potential for alien life, but who would know more than the people who have actually been to space, which are of course astronauts. Definitely on the list of coolest and scariest jobs in the entire world, there haven't been a ton of people who have had the unbelievable privilege of experiencing space firsthand, but there are even less of them who have claimed to see something that could potentially be proof of alien existence. People who have claimed these sorts of things include Edgar Mitchell, Catherine Coleman, and Dr. Brian O'Leary. The very interesting part about many of these claims is that they also include some sort of government cover-up as well with their claims. There was also Buzz Aldrin, who spoke about his Apollo 11 experience, and he detailed the crew seeing something flying alongside them, and at first they believed it was the final stage of a detached rocket, but the mission control confirmed that it was actually 6,000 miles away from them, leaving them with absolutely no answers on what the flying object could actually be. I can't imagine going to space at all, let alone encountering a UFO flying right beside you. I also can't believe if I hadn't heard of that story before, because to me that sounds a lot like full-blown alien contact. Starting off in our number 10 spot, we have big circles. These large ancient stone spheres were found by archaeologists in Jordan, and they have been the cause of confusion for many ever since. These stones were dated back to around 2,000 years ago, and so far about 11 or 12 of them have been found. These stone structures are nearly circular, and they range in size from 720 feet to 1,200 feet in diameter. There aren't any purposefully placed holes in the stones, so it isn't believed that they were used for either humans or animals to walk through. So what are they? Well, no one is exactly sure, to be honest. Researchers are trying to compare these structures to other similar ones in an attempt to find an answer to that question, but so far, only mysteries remain. In our number 9 spot today, we have Pumapunku. This site is located in Bolivia, and it boasts a series of stone structures. One of the most notable and remarkable things about this site is how precisely the stones here were cut. It is believed that this site dates back to somewhere around 536 AD, and while it now lay in ruins, it is thought to have once been an incredibly wondrous place filled with things like polished metal plaques, bright ceramics, and different fabrics. It isn't quite known exactly what this site was used for entirely, partly because of its age, but also because of the lack of written record and the deterioration that can be seen on the site. Because of the impressive size of the site, as well as the technology that was used to build it, this is a place that many people often say was built by aliens, but it was actually the Incas. They were incredibly talented craftsmen, and just because we couldn't pull it off today doesn't mean that we should take their credit away. In our number 8 spot today, we have Stonehenge. This prehistoric monument is located in England, and it is a set of stones that are oriented towards the sunrise on the summer solstice. This stone monument is thought to have been created somewhere from 3000 to 2000 BC, and it truly is one of the most famous landmarks ever. Stonehenge is thought to have been an ancient burial ground right from early in its creation for somewhere around 500 years. There are many theories surrounding this incredible monument regarding who could have created it, as experts just aren't quite sure. Since this was from a time before we had written records, we may never know for sure. Maybe this one is just destined to stay a mystery. In our number 7 spot today, we have the face on Mars. In 1976, as the NASA Viking orbiter was flying through space-time, it spotted what really appeared as a face on the surface of Mars. This face is nearly 2 miles long, and it is located within the smooth plains of northern Mars. This was striking because, like I mentioned, northern Mars is more smooth plains, while the southern area is where the cratered land can be found, but also because it's a huge face that looks like it's coming out of the planet. While it has been said that this face on Mars is actually just some sort of tabletop mountain, I prefer to take some liberties with that story. I'm just saying, out of everything on this list today, this one has got to be alien made. In our number 6 spot today, we have Machu Picchu. This incredible and stunning site was built over 500 years ago, and it was once known as the lost city of the Inca. Our modern discovery of this site came in 1911 when the archaeologist Hiram Bingham and his team stumbled upon it almost accidentally while looking for another ancient city. Of course, this site was not built by aliens and instead was built by the incredible Incas. People often refer to this as a place that may have been built by aliens because of the fact that the Incas were so ahead of their time in their ability to create absolutely amazing things, and because of the fact that all these years later, Machu Picchu is still standing. The stones used to create this site weighed over 50 tons, and it certainly doesn't have a location that would have been convenient to its construction. Through earthquakes and all of the terrible weather that Earth has seen in the last 500 years, Machu Picchu remains, and that is a testament to how brilliant their work really was. Another reason many people talk about this site being built by aliens is because of the elongated skulls that were found nearby, but guess what? This was actually a sign of royalty for the Incas, so maybe we should think twice about what we say when in the presence of royalty. And we should definitely be giving credit to them and all of the people who once took part in building this place, because we certainly couldn't do it today, what they did in the 15th century. In our number 5 spot today, we have the works of old men. The works of old men are structures that were first observed from the air by a British pilot in 1927, and they are located near the Azraq Oasis in Jordan. There are hundreds of these wheel-like structures structures that are each over 80 feet wide, some even as large as 200 feet. These huge structures have been dated back so far that they just might be the oldest man-made creations that we have ever found. While this is all amazing, we have absolutely no idea what they are or why they were created. The theories range from things like sun tracking to ceremonies to some sort of spiritual relevance, but we just aren't really sure. While things like this are incredible finds, and it's amazing that some of the first man-made things still exist on our Earth, it's insane that we have no idea what they are or how to use them, and unfortunately, because of the fact that it's been thousands and thousands of years, it's most likely that the mysteries surrounding them are totally lost with the past. In our number 4 spot today, we have Sacsayhuaman. This site is located in Cuzco, Peru, and it is another fascinating and seemingly impossible stone structure that was built by the Incas. This structure was once believed to have been a fortress, but now it is believed it may have actually been used for things like ceremonies. Why this is another incredible creation is because of the fact that we can't quite figure out how it could have been built. The stones in the structure fit together so perfectly that they're able to stay together without anything holding them in place, and they've done so for years and years. This, coupled with how large some of the stones were, is enough to completely stump experts. Despite how well the stones all fit together, apparently they all have different shapes, which has led researchers to believe that the building design was kind of made up as the structure was being built. Imagine that. Improving building a structure and it lasts for hundreds and hundreds of years and goes on to stump humanity for a while. I'm just saying. It's pretty cool. It becomes more and more apparent how talented and brilliant the Incas really were. In our number 3 spot today, we have the Nazca Lines. If you were to head to the Nazca Desert, just about 200 miles southeast of Lima in southern Peru, you'd find the most famous geoglyphs in the world. The Nazca Lines. Researchers believe that these lines might be something like 2 millennia old, and other than how they are incredible works of art, these often get referred to as a possible site of alien visitation because it just seems like making these should have been impossible 2,000 years ago. The geoglyphs are more than 800-foot long white lines etched into the desert, as well as 300 geometric shapes and 70 different animal figures. The biggest shape stretches around 1,200 feet across, which leads to my point about why these lines are so incredibly fascinating. These images can only be fully seen from high above in the air, so thinking back 2,000 years ago, how did humans make these without the vantage points we have now? I'm not exactly sure, but it definitely is nothing shy of amazing. In our number 2 spot today, we have the Yonaguni Monument. Just off of the coast of Yonaguni in Japan, there is a diving location that was first discovered in 1986 by a diver. He noticed some strange sort of formation that was located on the seabed that looked as if it could be some sort of structure, so he swam down to go investigate. When he went down and didn't find any more answers to his question, he of course had to spill the tea on what he had stumbled upon. When researchers heard about this, they ended up diving down to check out what this formation could be, and thus the Yonaguni Monument was considered officially discovered. This monument, which kind of resembles stairs made for giants, is made of sandstone and limestone, but there's one super mysterious thing about it. Experts cannot agree on the origins of this thing. Some people believe it was a naturally occurring formation, while others swear it was man, or perhaps alien-made. The Yonaguni Monument is at least 10,000 years old, so at the end of the day, anyone's guess is as good as mine. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments how you think the Yonaguni Monument came to be. In our number 1 spot today, we have Göbekli Tepe. This is a pre-pottery Neolithic archaeological site that is located in Turkey. This site has been dated back all the way to somewhere from 9,500 to 8,000 BC, making it the world's oldest known megalith, which is truly just incredible. This site is comprised of a bunch of large circular structures that are being supported by massive stone pillars, many of which are decorated with abstract anthropomorphic details and things which has provided rare and valuable insight into prehistoric religion and the iconography of the times when this was built. One of the most amazing things about this area is that it was first used at the beginning of the Neolithic period, which marks the oldest human settlements anywhere in the world. It has been called the world's first temple, and it was used by groups of nomadic hunter-gatherers from a wide area. Without a doubt, this was one of the best archaeological archaeological finds our modern society has ever had, as it gives us just a glimpse into what life was like in prehistoric times.
Starting off at number 10 now, we have the beginning. When it comes to explaining to aliens everything about humans, the start is, well, a good place to start. This image shows conception, a sperm cell fusing with an egg cell, which will eventually divide and become a fetus and then a human just like you and me. Now, when I first saw this, I worried that the aliens might not really understand what scale we're talking on here. What if they think the sperm cell is the size of a truck and the egg cell is the size of a football stadium? They may think we're giants, but no. Luckily, scientists are a lot smarter than me. On the previous slide, they explained the sizes of egg and sperm cells to show the aliens that they are very, very, very small. Coming out number 9 now, we have the location. This image explains to any reasonably intelligent aliens where exactly our solar system is. We've also included a picture of our nearest neighbor, the Andromeda Galaxy. It's hoped that this information on the slide will be enough for the aliens to figure out where we are. Of course, this is all pretty cool, but some people are a bit worried. Many feel that we shouldn't be so open about broadcasting our location to advanced life in the universe. If human history is anything to go by, technologically advanced groups rarely visit others just to say hello. Do you think people are just being paranoid with this, or should we keep our voices down in this big bad universe of ours? Moving on to number 8 now, we have the Taj Mahal. This is one of the most iconic buildings ever created. Located in India, it was built as a mausoleum for the Mughal emperor in the 1600s. So, why exactly does NASA think the aliens should want to see it? Well, they actually included a number of iconic buildings such as the Great Wall of China and the Sydney Opera House. Perhaps they're trying to show that buildings are important to us. After all, they are quite a uniquely human thing. No other animals build buildings like we build buildings. We absolutely love it. They become important to us, especially if they are grand, old, or have some historic importance to them. Will the aliens understand this, or will they find our love of buildings a strange or even primitive quality? At number 7 now, we have the womb. This is quite an interesting one. It shows the outline of a male and female couple, and the female is pregnant. This is obviously an attempt to show the aliens how we reproduce. This might seem obvious to us, but you have to remember, extraterrestrial life may have a completely different way of reproducing. They might be horrified that humans grow in a womb for 9 months. Probably not horrified, but you get the idea. This slide is just one of many that attempt to show the aliens how we procreate, how we are born, and how we grow. Moving on to number 6 now, we have the animals. NASA included a number of pictures of animals on the disc. This is one of my favorites, showing wildebeest and zebras drinking alongside each other in Africa. Now, you may think it's strange to include pictures of other animals when this is about us and aliens contacting each other. However, NASA felt that it wouldn't be a true representation of Earth if they didn't include other animals too. After all, we may dominate this planet, but we're not the only ones who call it home. The pictures of animals show that we are not alone on this planet, and that perhaps we even speak on their behalf if it ever comes to a point of contact with an alien civilization. Next up at number 5 now, we have home. That's the name of this picture, taken by NASA in the 1970s. At the bottom, you can see they've included the diameter of Earth as 12,756 kilometers. This is the only full picture of Earth that was included. What will the aliens make of it? Some other slides explain what our atmosphere is made of. I'm sure they can figure out that the white bits are clouds and the blue bit is our ocean. Hopefully they know it's water. Do you think so too? Also, this brings me back to our previous point. I know some of you are a bit paranoid about alien invasions, thanks Hollywood. If so, do you think it's a good idea to include pictures of our planet and what exactly it's made of? Could that be used against us? I personally don't think we have to worry, but it's quite an interesting idea. Moving on to number 4 now, we have eating. Here is a man enjoying a bunch of grapes. It may look like nothing to you, but it might help aliens understand a lot about us. The universe is a big place. Aliens may be so different to us that we can't even imagine what they would be like. However, it's safe to assume that they, like us, need energy. To live is to consume energy in some form or another. Aliens might have their own unique way of getting their energy, but for us, it's food. This picture helps explain that humans and many other creatures on Earth consume food for energy so that we can survive. Hopefully they don't think we only eat grapes though. That would get pretty boring quite quickly. Next up, at number 3 now, we have tectonic tectonic. In this image, we can see 3 different Earths. The top and bottom might look unfamiliar to you. The top one is what Earth looked like when it was 1.5 billion years old. All of the continents were just kind of mushed together. Tectonic activity in the Earth's crust sent them apart from each other, drifting and crashing into each other until they resembled the middle picture. That's what Earth looks like for us today. And there's a little human hand there to show that this is the era of Earth we humans live in. The bottom one shows what Earth will look like in a further 10 million years. This is based on scientific predictions. Now you may think this is a bit redundant, but just wait. Voyager 1 could be traveling in space for millions of years. Maybe aliens won't find it for another 10 million years. Will humans even still be around then? Perhaps. Either way, our map of what the Earth will look like by then may be far more accurate than what it looks like now. Moving on to number 2 now, we have sport. This is a picture of sprinters in a race at the 1976 Olympics held in Montreal. So, why did NASA want aliens to see this one? Well, sport and competition have always been a huge part of the human story. It was competition that made us spread across the planet, and now it's sport that brings us together to compete in various events. It's a common bond that all human cultures seem to share in one way or another. This is also a contrast to the images of war and trouble that we often see on the news. This is NASA trying to show aliens that despite our differences, we are more similar than not. Call it the Olympic spirit or even the human spirit. It's a good picture to include that they can understand what exactly is going on. And finally now at number 1, we have the cars. This picture was taken from a busy road in India. There are a few others like it that show humans with their cars. It seems like NASA wanted to show the aliens that we build things to do better jobs than we ever could. If they recognize that we constructed these cars, they may see in us a desire to reach beyond the physical limitations of our own human bodies. Perhaps this is something they will recognize in themselves too. Any aliens that find Voyager 1 will have to have plucked it from space. If that happens, there's a very good chance they will have had to use machinery just like our cars and space rockets. After all, we don't know of any living thing that can survive in space by itself forever. Perhaps they can though. Perhaps they see our obsession with machines as nothing more than filling a hole in the human condition.
Number 10, the pyramids. Here is the thing about ancient things we don't understand. They didn't have tractors or power tools. How on earth did they build these things? The belief that aliens helped build the pyramids has been a conspiracy theory since before the dawn of the internet. So let's dive in, shall we? The pyramids at Giza in Egypt were built around 4,500 years ago to serve as the resting place for great pharaohs and queens. And they are massive. The Great Pyramid is made of millions of precisely carved stones, about 2 tons each, not pounds, tons. 1 ton is about 2,000 pounds, so yeah. Even with today's equipment, it would be a massive challenge. There's also the factor of their precise alignment with Orion's belt that has alien theorists super excited. Another factor that has conspiracies buzzing is that these pyramids are somehow in better shape than the ones built after them. Scientists still don't quite know how they were built, so that's where aliens come in. Due to their complexity and size, aliens or some outer celestial force could be an explanation. But the leading theory is that they were built through the use of many hands. But even still, something doesn't click there. I think humans were a lot smarter than we often give them credit for, so I'm gonna admit I'm skeptical of the aliens theory, but I'm open to it. And I'm definitely open to all the others on this list. Number 9, Stonehenge. So for similar reasons to the massive building blocks of the pyramids, there are a lot of questions surrounding Stonehenge. And we have to talk about them. Just outside of Salisbury, England, there is a massive circle of 92 stones. We know it was built around 4,000 to 5,000 years ago, same time as the pyramids. And the weight of each stone varies from 4 tons to 50 tons. In July 2020, scientists found evidence that the Sarsen stones trace back to westward Wiltshire, around 25 kilometers north of the site. Individually, they weigh around 50,000 pounds. So imagine that. On top of that, scientists have no idea who built it or why. One of the most popular theories is that it was built by the Druids. Stonehenge also aligns with solstices and eclipses, which means whoever built it had their eyes carefully on the sky, probably in relationship to their pagan beliefs. But even still, how? Researchers have some theories that may suggest that they had the technology to accomplish this feat around that time, or did they? There are too many questions still unanswered for me to be completely sold that it didn't involve aliens. Number 8, Teotihuacan. Keeping with the theme of ancient potentially alien structures, we have Teotihuacan, aka the City of the Gods in Mexico. Though scientists have confirmed that it was built by human hands, many alien enthusiasts still think the jury is still out. Constructed over 2,000 years ago, Teotihuacan age, size, and complexity seems out of this world. The city could house over 100,000 people, and scientists believe that the structure was built through a combined effort of the Maya, Zapotec, and Mixtec people. But something really weird happened on May 4th, 2015. A tourist took a picture of the structure, not thinking anything of it at the time. But when he finally looked down at it, he noticed two floating discs above the structure. That, along with the sheer colossal size of the structures, fed the alien conversation. On top of that, as of 2018, scientists have only excavated around 10% of the site. It could be a little over that now, but there are plenty of secrets yet to be revealed, including if those two ships were attempting to return to a lost civilization they helped build. Number 7, the Green Children. The story of the two children who appeared in the village of Woolpit, Suffolk, England, has become what some would call lore, but that doesn't mean to say it didn't stem from something very, very real. In the 12th century, two children with vibrant green skin and weird clothes showed up in the village confused and alone. They spoke a language no one understood, but despite that, the village took them in. Initially, the two refused any and all food offered to them until they took a liking to raw beans. The more they ate and the longer they stayed, the more the green color began to fade. The two children eventually learned to speak English too, just enough to explain where they were from. They spoke of a place where it was perpetually twilight and had been helping their dad with the cattle when a loud bang sounded and they turned up in Woolpit, and there they stayed. The young boy died sadly after, but the little girl ended up growing old in Woolpit, even marrying. Some think they were from a parallel universe, others believe alien teleportation, but follow the paintings and many depictions of them to see if you can decide for yourself. Number 6, Val Camonica, Italy cave drawings. So we talked about petroglyphs last time, and if you don't know, stop this video now and check out part 1 because I talk about it there. Go check out part 1. Pause. You back? Okay, good. For those of you who are like, nah, petroglyphs are tiny little cave drawings depicting everyday life of the ancients, usually carved into bronze or cave walls showing people hunting, gathering, and communing with aliens, you know, that kind of stuff. The Val Camonica cave drawings in Italy fueled a lot of alien hype when they were discovered. Carved some 8,000 to 10,000 years ago before the Bronze Age, the glyphs appear to show men with helmets on their heads and oddly shaped weapons. They even have little lines shooting out from their helmets as if they glowed. Alien hunters around the world consider this as indisputable proof that aliens visited our ancient relatives, so who knows. Number 5, 250,000-year-old aluminum. A couple days ago on date night, we ordered in and the packaging all came wrapped in aluminum. We use it every day. It's one of the most common materials found on Earth, making up approximately 8.2% of the Earth's crust, so we find it a lot. But did you know we only figured out how to extract it in the 1800s? So what the heck was a 5-pound aluminum object doing buried next to 10,000-year-old Macedon bones in Romania? Answer: aliens. No one knew at all around that time what aluminum was or how to extract it, yet aluminum made up 89% of the metal wedge they found. The object was clearly crafted by someone, and many have theorized that it could have been anything from a tool to the landing foot of an alien spaceship. No one knows the answer, so that just leaves one option. Okay, maybe a few, but one guess onto which one is my favorite. Number 4, the Karnak stones. This is like Stonehenge, but 3 times the size, quite literally. On the northwest coast of France in Karnak, 3,000 megalithic granite stones weighing anywhere from 50 to 100 tons are placed in rows over 2 miles long. They were carved from local rock formations and erected 4,500 to 2,500 BC at the end of the Stone Age. It is absolutely mind-boggling, and archaeologists are baffled. Legends say giants built Karnak, but the leading alien theory is that they were built in order to communicate with beings in the sky. What do you think that means? Mainstream archaeologists speculate that they are actually tomb markers, but ancient astronaut theorists began to notice that they are actually laid out in exact geometric positions. The angles are all the same, and they follow the Pythagorean theorem. What and who were they trying to communicate with, and why? All right, before we hit our top 3, if you like this video and you're sticking with it and want a part 3, you know what to do. Like this video, subscribe for more, and comment on what you want to see next. Number 3, the Ulfbert swords. Okay, instead of the lady in the lake, what if Excalibur was actually given to us by aliens? And by Excalibur, I mean like the closest thing, which were the Ulfbert swords. So you pretty much had to carry a sword with you at all times in medieval times because you just never knew what was around the corner. Thieves, hooligans, who knows? But they were actually pretty expensive. A run-of-the-mill one would cost anywhere between 1,200 to 24 grand in today's prices. But Ulfbert swords were priceless, and the technology it took to make them shouldn't have existed. So how were they made? The Ulfberht swords are a collection of Viking swords dated between 800 to 1000 AD. They were the strongest, sharpest, and most flexible swords ever made, but the technology used to make them couldn't be replicated until the 1900s. The process for combining the materials used to make the swords required an oven set at 1600 degrees Celsius, which was not only hot enough to melt the materials, but also draw any impurities. Then other metals could be added. Production of these swords appears to have ceased within 200 years of their inception, but no other name besides Ulfberht lends a clue as to who made them. So how did they get the technology, and was it actually made by a human, are the two questions that surround these swords. We'll leave it up to, I don't know, the future to decide. I guess we'll never know. Who knows? Number 2, the Dropa stones. Could the Dropa stones be definitive evidence of an ancient alien visitation? Let's discuss. In 1938, 716 12,000-year-old discs were found in a cave somewhere on the border of China and Tibet. Each is 1 foot in diameter, and stranger yet, they seem to depict some kind of strange event. Along the walls of the cave where they were found, strange markings depicting men in round helmets with the sun, moon, and stars surrounding them are on the walls. Even stranger, Dr. Chi Pu-Te also recorded finding strangely shaped skeleton bodies with heads larger than normal. But even more suspiciously, the discs disappeared after the story of the alien visitation was translated from the discs. They were stored in the Beijing University for 2 decades before they were released to be studied finally. However, after the stones were taken down after their exhibition, they haven't been seen since. What do we think, friends? Let us know in the comments. Number 1, Sirpur, India, the Sarang Tila Temple. This structure dates back to the 17th century AD, but was buried by an earthquake in 11th century AD. But somehow, it survived. Blocks were held together by Ayurvedic paste, which was one of the main reasons it survived, along with 3 hollow shafts beneath the structure designed to dissipate an earthquake. The recipe for the paste is 4,500 years old and is from an ancient Indian text called the Maya Mamantan, an architectural manuscript passed down from the king of the demigods Mayasura, who oversaw various construction projects, including cities in the sky. There are many points in the temple that imply that the knowledge came from somewhere else. Even the head archaeologist Dr. Arun Sharma believes that aliens visited and gave the townspeople the technology.
In your opinion, where did this knowledge come from?
Those who are more advanced in other planets used to visit the Earth, and I think they must have given some knowledge to the local people.
So there you are, evidence from the head archaeologist himself, so I guess it's up to us.